But what I really have no idea how to do, but really want to do is documentaries. Like, I love storytelling. I love documentaries. I will watch them for hours.
Me too.
It can be about anything. It could be about SeaWorld. That Kevin laughs. Because he'll be like, what are you watching? He'll sit down and then he's stuck. He's stuck with me watching it.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. We're very similar in that way. In fact, today, we're talking to my friend Sydnea, by the way. Don't you say it wrong or you get hit in the face by somebody, not me. She's a visionary. She's a person with not just status for status' sake, but she's a person with proximity to others. She's not far to reach. She's not just exclusive, she's inclusive. You can get a hold of her if you need anything. This is my homie, my dog. This is the weapon on Wallaceville, Kevin Rutland's wife. But she's not here just because she's Kevin Rutland. I'm just making this up right now. That's not the real intro.
Oh,
I just wanted to see if you were ready.
That was phenomenal.
I just wanted to see if you were ready.
I'll stay ready.
Okay, well, bet. We'll just make that the intro then anyways.
Okay.
I want to know and start with your career. But before we get into your career and all the awesome things that you've done, because I've done my homework. Okay. I've done my homework for sure. I want to talk about college and grad school.
Okay.
What did you major in school, in undergrad? What were you thinking at the time that you wanted to be when you grew up?
Yes.
And then also, what made you go get an MBA?
Okay. Phenomenal.
At the school that I didn't get accepted to.
Oh.
But I'm gonna leave that alone.
Okay. I'm sorry. Okay. So education is really big in my family. So much so to where I grew up, I went to Catholic private schools my whole life. So faith, education, always been the foundation of my family.
Wild.
And I say so much so that I didn't grow up affluent. My parents didn't have, an exorbitant amount of money, but they made it happen. Whether that meant my mom getting multiple jobs, whether that meant her taking out loans from the credit union, education was really important. So I always understood that my parents were paying for 3 kids to go to private schools. And in exchange, once you graduate high school, you're on your own. You figure it out. So for me, I always took education very seriously. So whereas my husband, right, athletics, that was his thing. I wish I can't do nothing with the ball. And so for me, it's always been about books. And so I've been really competitive. I love to learn. And I knew that would be my ticket to be able to do more for others. Because my mom said there are 2 types of people. You can be the person who needs help, or you can be the person who gives help. And so for me, I've always been very mission driven. So when I got to the 12th grade, applied to 20 different colleges.
Really?
Because somebody gonna pay me something, right?
Really?
And so with that, I narrowed it down to the schools where I had full tuition. And I had about 5, and I started doing school visits.
You had, hold on. Pause. Let's not just, you had 5, essentially scholarship offers?
Full tuition. I probably have more than that. I would guess I had at least, I don't know, maybe 16, 17 scholarship offers. Because when you're looking at it, right, you have a young person who's extremely involved, serious about academics, and not of significant means, right? So that's part of the formula.
So you were a part of groups and orgs?
Yeah,
and stuff like that
so I was, student council president,
Okay.
African American awareness, executive board, varsity tennis.
For real?
Yeah, youth group at church, doing service, very active.
Dang, Sid, this totally makes... Okay, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
And so with that, though, narrowed it down to school, started to visit. And when I visited the University of Missouri, it was the exact opposite of anything I had experienced, right? I went to small Christian schools my whole life, and this was the biggest public school I ever saw, most secular.
Massive.
And for me, I wanted something different. And so University of Missouri it was. And I went there as a Brooks Scholar where they covered my tuition. I had outside scholarships to cover my room and board. And then second year came, those 1-year scholarships to cover room and board ended, right? You got to do something. So I started working. So I was really grateful. I became a resident advisor. So I would work 40 hours a week doing that. Had to keep a certain GPA to keep my academic scholarship. But fortunately, I was a business major, right? So that's business. You got to figure out how to balance. You got to figure out how to prioritize to get the highest return on investment, right? And that's how I approached my life in college, right?
I am genuinely shocked right now.
You didn't know?
You were a sophomore working 40 hours a week?
Yeah.
And going to school full time?
Yeah.
Were you involved in as many clubs and activities, extracurriculars during?
Absolutely. And so I started my own organization. I'm a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha.
Sorority
Incorporated.
Shout out. Hey, you better say that.
Right. I
Shout
fuck
out.
up alpha. And so, but I remember at one point I didn't know if they were going to be on campus. And I'm just so used to being busy and engaged, right? I joined, Black Business Association, different organizations, but
Yeah.
I still wanted something where I could do service, have fun. And so I started an organization that hosted fashion shows and gave out scholarships just because it's like, okay, I have downtime on my hands. I'm used to being really active. So me and a group of friends started the organization. Visions was the name of it. And it was super fun. We'd host annual fashion shows and award money to the winners.
This is crazy.
So it's just like a ton of fun doing that, and in addition to a lot of other organizations. And then fortunately, once my sorority did come on campus, I was able to become a part of the sisterhood and was ultimately vice president of the organization, got to do a lot of fun programming. But with that, like I've always had the business mindset, and that's been a thread throughout really my entire life.
This makes so much sense. I said I wasn't going to talk about Kev. This totally makes so much sense. I'll cut this part out.
Okay.
But I ask this guy so many questions all the time, and he's Gabby. He's just, this is getting a little weird.
He's super laid back.
Me and him both are from the east side. Shout out to them boys off the east. Y'all both went to private school your whole life. She's probably had 2 B's in her whole life. And one was chemistry, and she cried.
Oh, yeah. I've shed some tears.
I think she took organic chemistry. She was a math major at first and
wow.
eventually changed to nutrition, dietitian, and all the other stuff that she does.
Yeah.
Me and Kev, I'm just here so I don't get fined. We're here for football and for a good time. And but also, I think you and I have very similarities with, like, I know what I want. We're making objectives. Write the vision, make it plain.
Right.
We're going after something. I want to be involved. I want people to be encouraged. I want people to be equipped. I want team members to feel seen.
Absolutely, yeah.
The details.
Yes.
The details matter to me.
Absolutely.
I don't have a calendar on my wall through 2026 for no reason.
That's amazing.
And and for the life of me, it ought to be filled by now because I'm that far ahead in my head. Gabrielle Ramirez, go with the flow. Easy as a cucumber. What do you want me to do? She's support staff all day.
Oh.
She'll hold up the other side of whatever you're trying to pick
That's
up.
amazing.
But for her to draw up the plans to pick it up and move it, probably not going to have it. Who does that sound like? Kevin Rutland, the weapon on Wallaceville. That's crazy. So what was the time like, what was the time like between leaving Mizzou, graduating, and deciding to do the MBA program? Because y'all had a lot of moving parts for a few years in there.
Yes, absolutely.
In different cities too as well.
Right, absolutely. I always knew that I wanted more education. I actually was a part of a program for students interested in ultimately getting their doctorates when I was in undergrad, the McNair Scholars Program. So I always knew I was going to get more education. I just didn't know how much. I didn't know if that would be a master's and a doctorate or exactly what combination it would be. So when I left undergrad, I actually was already looking at MBA programs.
Really?
Yes. And so I actually, took the GMAT, did the test prep, even applied to some schools. And then I realized when you're talking about going to one of the more competitive MBA programs, you need work experience.
For 100%.
Most of them. Harvard has a 2+2 program where they do have a pipeline for people to go immediately out of undergrad. But most of your competitive programs, they want you to have work experience.
At least 5 years, three to 5.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the minimum, the absolute minimum is 2. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to, hit the job market. I'm going to look for opportunities there. And I did that. I'm big on programs. And so they're there for a reason. And so I'm always the one who's going to raise my hand and say, yes, please. And so I did Inroads, which is a program for students from underrepresented groups interested in business. So every summer I had an internship with a Fortune 500 company. And so I left my last year of my internship with a full-time job offer, which really helps when you're interviewing with other organizations, right? Because that gives them confidence.
Of 100%.
Absolutely. And so I accepted a job offer with Aldi Foods. I had a friend who was in Inroads and she interned with Aldi. And I'm like, a grocery store? Like, that's not cool. I throw fashion shows. Like, I was looking to do something that was more glamorous. But I fell in love with the Aldi opportunity because it was an opportunity to be an entrepreneur. When they talked about entrepreneurship, that hooked me, right? Because that's always been something that appealed to me, like the freedom to create. I love that. And to utilize and leverage your resources to do something that maybe hasn't been done before. So I moved to Chicago, worked for Aldi Foods, and during that time, I was also looking to build my resume because I knew I wanted to apply to MBA programs. And so after 3 years of working with Aldi, I started to look at programs again, and I knew I wanted to go to a top program because MBAs are expensive.
Absolutely.
And so it's really important. A lot of people don't realize it's really important that if you're trying to maximize the salary you can get on the other side, it's really important that you go to the highest ranked program.
The
that you
names
can.
matter.
It matters.
I understand. I understand it's 2025 and who you know matters more, and I get
Yes.
that. But the name association to your grad school program absolutely matters.
It does. And what people don't realize, and I understood this more once I was on the corporate side and I would help with recruiting, is that there are X number of dollars allotted to recruiting, right? And if I'm a recruiter, my job is to maximize how much we're getting for every dollar, right? So if I have X dollars to spend, I'm going to go to the school where I feel like we're going to get the
talent.
strongest,
Absolutely.
yes, the best talent who's going to come, you got to go somewhere where you think they'll accept your job offer. So that's important because you don't want to go make all these job offers and no one accepts. But then also who's going to come and have an impact in your organization.
Absolutely.
And so with that's how I ended up at the University of Texas at Austin.
What?
So it actually came down for me between Cornell and UT. My sister went to Cornell Law. It's an Ivy League
she
school.
really?
She did. And so for me, I wanted to go to Cornell.
One of my best friends was Cornell.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've heard great things. And I also hear that, people at Cornell are super down to earth.
It's different.
Even though it's an
yeah.
Ivy
He's an
League.
orthopedic surgeon.
Oh,
so,
awesome.
Self-explanatory.
Yeah, right.
yeah.
Achievers. And so
What?
it actually came down to those two. And talking to Kevin, we were very serious in our relationship. At that point, we had probably been dating for 7 years because we started dating like at the my freshman year, his sophomore year of college. And he said, I don't want to live in Ithaca. And I'm like, what? And it was the hardest decision because I felt like I never thought I'd be a person who lets a man have any say so. Right. I'm like, you're not my husband.
Yeah.
But something told me if I want this relationship to really thrive, I have to start allowing him to have a voice. Because we have been very independent outside of that. Like once we graduated, we had a long distance relationship. It's like, you're going to do what's best for your career. I'm going to do what's best for mine. And so I chose UT at Austin. And I was blessed to have a full tuition scholarship there.
For the master's program?
For my master's program. So I'm really grateful and blessed to be a consortium fellow. And so the consortium is for folks from all different types of backgrounds. But what we have in common is that we're committed to diversifying business leadership. Right? Because when you have diverse, and when people hear diverse, I think they also often think about ethnicity, right? But it's so much deeper than that,
sure.
right? Like we need to have a room with diverse thought leadership. And so that brought me to UT. And I'm committed to that. And that's a thread that goes really through every program I've ever done. It's about helping folks have access who otherwise wouldn't, so that we can make better business decisions.
That's wild. I'm so dialed in right now. It's
Yes!
crazy. You just talk. You cannot over talk today.
Okay, awesome. And so
UT to
yes, and so that's how I ended up at UT Austin. And then when I was at UT Austin, I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do next. I had a vision for a few different things. So I thought I'd be the chief HR officer ultimately for someone's organization.
Is Aldi over at this time?
Yes. So I left Aldi. After working there for about 3 years as a district manager to go to UT for their full-time program. So I moved to Austin, and there I have an internship between my first and second year. So everyone's required to have an internship. So I interned with Coca-Cola. And they allowed me to work out of their Minute Maid office because I was getting married that summer. So Kevin and I got married in Houston. And so they had, I don't know if they still have it, but a Sugarland office for Minute Maid.
Yeah.
And so I worked out of that office, and I was actually on their diversity inclusion team for North America. So I spent the summer as an intern working on projects around.
Bro, I'm nerding out.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I learned a lot. Like part of the work is understanding like the landscape of our country and what cities are majority, minority, and it's so few, and it just really blew my mind. A lot of things that I learned.
Minute Maid was doing that?
Yes, and so I would fly to
the Coca-Cola company.
Yes, I'll fly to the Coca-Cola headquarters as part of the internship for different opportunities and meetings. Loved my experience there. Ultimately decided when I went back to UT, I had a second year, and still maintaining the relationship with Coca-Cola, but looking at opportunities. And we're Texans through and through. So we had a conversation and decided we really would love to stay in Texas. And so I ultimately accepted a job offer from American Airlines. They had a program where they
Dallas.
recruited MBAs. Yes, in Dallas, which is where I'm from.
Coca-Cola's in Atlanta?
Yes, they're based out of Atlanta. And so I went into a program and I did revenue management. That was my first role in American Airlines, which is something that I never thought I would do.
Ma'am, hold on. No. Time out. Your background is crazy.
You think so? It just seems normal to me.
It's not. This is not normal, ma'am.
Okay.
This is not. This, like, you got exposed. It's almost like you were destined to do this. But like all your clubs and activities you did in high school, that's insane. To how involved you were in college, with working 40 hours. You know what I was doing at 20? I'm not here for a long time, baby.
Yeah.
I'm here for a good time.
Oh, I still had a good time.
But like,
You got to be able to multitask.
that's beyond multitasking. The average college student is already multitasking. But from what you're telling me,
Well, I'm big on working smarter, not harder. And so for me, any job I've ever had was a job that was going to make me more marketable. It was a job that was going to have highly transferable skills. It was a job that was going to challenge me and grow me.
yeah, but that's strategic too, though, Sid.
It was very strategic,
That's
yeah.
very strategic. Like, even that takes a person with vision to say, here's where I want to be in 6 months. I'm not doing this for no reason. You don't.
That's true. But I think for me, I have a deep sense of duty, right? And knowing the sacrifices that my parents made,
Oh, okay.
I couldn't do anything less.
Okay, I
Right?
got
So
you.
it's normal for me because for me, this is how I worship, right? This is how I show appreciation for all the blessings that I have.
Yeah.
It's by not taking anything for granted,
granted.
and always giving 100%. Right, and sometimes you fail. Every day is not your best day. But for me, I don't know how to do anything different but show up with passion for anything I do.
So how do you lead and tolerate and cultivate team members who don't? Mm-hmm. They operate somewhere near 65%, and you see the potential in them. You
Yeah.
know they can do it better or more thoughtfully.
Right.
How do you? I need to know for me.
Hey, that's
How do you do that?
It affects me. It affects me. That's actually one of my biggest frustrations. And I would say I lead through love, right? I'm really big on folks understanding I care about you unconditionally. And it's, yes, I know you because of this business relationship, but I care about you and there's nothing that you can do about that, right? Whether
Ooh,
you're
that's
here,
good.
whether you're not here. And so there are people where sometimes you're having that conversation over and over again.
Yeah.
So for example, through my restaurant, we have a free college program. We partner with Point University, which is a private, fully accredited institution out of Georgia.
For real?
Yes, and because we're in Houston, we focus on the online programs. Because most of the folks are working. You don't have to be full-time at my restaurant to be able to go to school free, but it's completely free. They have 2-year programs. They have 4-year programs. We have a few master's programs. And so I have folks who are enrolled and they're on it. You know, I was super proud. I had a leader make the dean's list. I could have cried.
Yeah.
I was just so proud. But there are a lot of people who just have never seen anyone do it, or maybe they've done it and maybe they failed a class or two. And I really struggle to get people to see, like, it's not about how you start. It's not even about the journey, right? It's about achieving
For sure.
whatever that goal is. Because
Yeah.
ultimately, when you have that degree, nobody asked me what my GPA was in my MBA program. Nobody even asked me my undergrad GPA.
I've never hired a person who I cared about.
Right? And there were
sure.
some I think when I was looking for that first job after the program, it definitely made me more competitive because I had a high
Yeah.
GPA. But there are a lot of roles where they don't care about your GPA, right? They care about, like, tell me about what you accomplished. Tell me about what results that
This is
you've driven.
output.
Absolutely. And so for me, I just keep revisiting it. And it's something that I'm actively trying to figure out is, like, how can I inspire people? How can I help them see themselves how I see them? Because I work with some phenomenal people where I'm like, I don't know if I could do this without you. I know I don't want to do this without you.
Yeah.
Right. And I just tell them, like, I want you to work with me because you want to, not because there's nothing else you can do. Because no one else is going to grow you in their organization and give you as much responsibility. No, I want it to be because you believe in what we're doing and you believe in this vision. And I want you to be able to leave if you want to.
You want them to be bought in.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I want them to be able to stand on their own. If God forbid something happens to me tomorrow, I don't want them to be worried that, oh, what if my next boss doesn't believe in me like Sid? Right? I want them to know I am highly capable and I have a track record of success. And so I can write my own ticket. And so that's something I'm actively working on. And what I found is you just have to keep having those conversations. And the biggest way you can help somebody build confidence in themselves is with evidence. People don't realize.
Absolutely.
People sometimes don't realize. When I'm like, do you see how you grew sales
For sure.
for that channel?
Yeah.
Do you see how your tactics are producing the output that
sure.
exceed the goal we set? And so sometimes you just have to hold a mirror up to people. They have no
Man,
idea.
that's dope. But through the lens of love.
Absolutely.
Man, that's good. I cut off your story when you were getting ready to talk about Dallas because I couldn't help but to hear. Like high school, you were making moves and doing stuff. College, you were making moves and doing stuff. MBA, you land an internship and you're considering going to Atlanta, or was it Ithaca?
That was Cornell. So that was...
Yeah, that was Cornell.
Yes, looking at Ithaca when it came down to deciding between Cornell and UT ultimately were my top two choices.
And see, even that, but either way, even if you did go to Cornell, I reckon you would have been just as busy there. You'd have been just as active there.
Absolutely.
You'd have been looking, you would have making internship, you'd have making things happen. Like, to hear how dialed you've been is kind of wild. Normal to you.
Yes, it is normal.
I get it. This is your normal.
Right.
Cool. But that's the same thing as like athletes or like our friend group, our high school friend group. Like these guys accomplish so much that the average person hasn't. And when you talk to them about like, hey, what were you thinking at the time? It's like nothing. I just got practice at 9.
Yeah.
I got this at this time, this at that time. It's like,
Right.
what are you talking about, bro? Like you're of the 1% of the 1%. You're a fraction of the 1%. And it's so normal to you. So hearing you talk so far, and we haven't even gotten to team dynamics and leadership like that, but hearing you communicate about your journey so far, it's like, who couldn't have seen what you were going to be back in 8th grade by the amount of things that you've been doing? That's wild.
I appreciate that, but I feel like everyone can do it. And so I think...
You're proving my point, though. You're proving my point. See, this is the problem. This is no different than like when I talked to Earl Mitchell, and it's like, yeah, you could have went to the league. No, I couldn't. Stop. You have a talent. Like everyone does not have, and I love potential. I'm a potential junkie. I will encourage you to your eyeballs fall out. I love seeing something in a person and pulling it out of them.
Yes.
And then coming back and say, look, you did it. Do you not see?
Right.
We did it right. We hit the objective, and it was all because you believed in yourself. I live for moments like that.
Right.
But I think to be transparent, the last year and a half, the last 18 months, life and people and personnel has taught me like some people don't want what I want, even if
absolutely.
I see it in them,
Right.
and that's okay. So I say that to say that is your norm. I appreciate your norm, and I appreciate your ability to say everybody can do this, anybody, and I got that. I'm with you. We on the same page. We chilling. We on the same page. But you have a unique skill set and a unique ability to make things happen that other people, if they had the exact same puzzle pieces you had, probably wouldn't have put it together. So just take your compliment, and I'm gonna move forward.
Okay.
Because I love your passion, but we bigging you up today.
Okay.
We bigging you up today. You've accomplished a lot, and don't say, well, we did it. I'm like, hey, you did it. Well, the whole team did it. No. We're talking about you today.
Okay.
In Jesus' name.
Amen.
I want to ask you about, you go from Dallas, Love Field, American Airlines.
Yes, DFW.
Transition from Dallas to Houston.
Yes.
Talk to me about all of that. Now, this is the
Yes.
thing that's super interesting to me.
Yes. So I was at American Airlines, and I was checking every box I thought I wanted to check with my career. Working with people where I felt appreciated, I felt seen. I was growing my career year after year, getting the opportunities that I wanted.
Yes, you were.
Started out-
Aldi owns Trader Joe's. Most people
amazing
don't even
company,
know that.
phenomenal company.
And I heard the whole real family, like the family is still like a part of the board. Something I read, I think it was Inc. 5000 or Forbes, something like that, talking about all these original family. It's one of the only companies where the family is still attached.
Oh, I can believe it. I don't
To
know, but
something.
I can believe it. Yeah. And phenomenal company. So I've also been really blessed to work with amazing companies. And Aldi really taught me how to be a leader. I have to give it to them. I'd tell anybody, if you have the opportunity to work for that organization, if you know that you're a person who wants to work for a company and have longevity, check out Aldi. They treat their people phenomenally well. And so, was it American Airlines? Was checking all the boxes that I wanted to check in terms of career growth and income and exposure in relationships. Was really being poured into and developed, had excellent mentors. And after I had my oldest daughter, I felt empty. I felt like I should be happy. I should be fulfilled, but I'm not. And I felt like God was just getting the scraps of my life. Like, okay,
You better not do that.
All right.
You better not have church today.
Right.
You better.
And so I just felt like I know he put me here to do something. And he's given me all this business experience and this business education. And he's paid for it. I know it's not for nothing. So I just felt like I was being called to do something where the Lord would be able to be front and center day to day in all that I did. And so I just started looking. I wasn't sure what it was. I thought maybe it's going back to Aldi, because what I loved is that you get to work with frontline people when you work in an industry like grocery, right? Versus I loved American Airlines. A lot of the people I worked with, I'd say, were more similar than different to me. They had maybe even more education than me. I worked a lot with PhDs, trying to build different models for things we were trying to predict. When I worked in customer experience, doing really cool things. I had a lot of fun. But as I mentioned before, I'm a helper, right? I'm an achiever and a helper. And the achiever in me feels that a sense of achievement when I help other people.
Yeah,
and I see
absolutely.
them realize their goals, their dreams.
You get fulfillment by seeing
so
that.
much fulfillment.
Absolutely.
Right? And so I feel like, if I were gone tomorrow, I did something. Right?
Absolutely.
If I help even one person, that's very meaningful to me. And so started to look for different things. And one of the many things that I looked into was Chick-Fil-A. And I actually thought the role would be one where I would be more in a role like the district manager role that I was in with Aldi. But through the process, interviewing, it was a 2.5-year process, interviewing with Chick-fil-A to become an owner, I learned the opportunity was so much greater than I even imagined.
Really?
Yes. And so through that also, I remember through the interview process, someone asked me like, hey, have you ever worked in a Chick-fil-A restaurant? I was like, no, I'm sorry. I work full time. I'm telling them everything else I have going on. And then at Lightbulb, I was like, but I could do that, couldn't I?
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah. So I used to, when I could, go in Chick-fil-A restaurants and work. To get experience, I'll be in somebody's drive-thru taking orders. And I loved how humbling the experience was. With Aldi's program, part of their training, I was managing a grocery store and I was, fixing product on the shelves. And to be so humble, it's a beautiful thing, right? Because when you spend your time in a suit, presenting and you walk into rooms and hey, I'm paying
100%,
right.
yep.
I have a team that I'm bringing in. People treat you differently.
100%.
And I think it's really important to remember how the other half experiences life, right? Who doesn't have the privilege that I have. And so fell in love day after day. The many different restaurants. I was probably in, 12, 13, 14, 15 different restaurants I visited in the 2.5 years, just looking to learn. Yeah, see, how do you do things differently? Meet their team. Understand, what makes y'all continue to want to do this every day? I really felt like I found my place, right? With the brand, I felt aligned, right? I get to wear my love of Christ on my sleeve.
Yeah.
But it's still a business.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. It's a business, right? It's just a business where we all agree that the best way to operate, is with Christian values, right? That's just good business, right? Regardless of what you believe in or don't believe in, we can all agree, treat others how you want to be treated, right? We can all agree in the power of being generous, right? And so for me, I got really excited about the ability to just be a helper all day, every day, serve all day, every day. And I'm naturally a very smiley, goofy, happy person. And so it was fun for me. And that's literally what I do all day, every day. It's about how can I surprise and delight people? How can I connect with people? How can I increase the value proposition for my team each and every day? And so the vision for my restaurant is to change lives. And so you might be here for a season, right? Or maybe you want to become an owner one day. But that's what we're here to do for our team members, for our community. It's all about changing lives, right? And I've been able to do that day after day for 5 years now.
My mind is blown. Did not know that. 2.5 years? Were you still doing stuff with your other job during
Yeah,
that?
absolutely.
Or are you officially done?
No. I did
So
not.
this is like, you pay your dues on a whole nother level.
Right. And sacrifice, for me, it's normal, right? Anything that you want, anything that's worth having is, I've found, comes with a degree of sacrifice.
Absolutely.
And so for me, having a small child, working full time, and any role that I do, I'm going to give everything I have, right? Whether that's 50 hours a week, 60 hours a week, whatever it takes, that's what I'm going to do. But having a great partner makes it a lot easier to do that. So Kevin picked up the slack. Right. So if I was, going to get in a Chick-Fil-A restaurant after work or on the weekend, he made it happen. No questions asked. He just said, where do you need me to be? And he filled the gap.
My guy. Shout out, Kev.
Yeah.
You lead a large team. You lead a team that I'd imagine has like a lot of moving parts.
Yes.
And a lot of things change from day to day. You never know. Opening, closing. With that many people, there can be so many different like team dynamics,
Yes.
personalities, different motivations that don't work for some people and they will absolutely work for the others. And some people like, hey, next time I see you come into my office type of thing.
Yes.
How do you keep everything like in balance, in control? And then also like just keep perspective on the main thing.
Right.
Which is change lives, like you said. Like, how do you do that?
It's extremely difficult. Leadership, but more important than leadership is culture. Because I found culture is the umbrella that everything else falls into.
You better talk right
Yeah,
now.
so-
That's one of my favorite words. I love
Really?
workplace culture.
Yes.
What? That's the only. This is an excuse, to be honest with you. You're here also because I get to get insights to workplace culture for different friends of mine.
Yeah,
I
and
love
so I feel like everything falls under culture. And so if you're working on culture, you're moving forward, you're growing. If you ever stop working on culture, your business is dead, in my opinion. It's a slow death. And so we do so many different things.
Invisible death.
Yeah, and one of my favorite things that we do is something that we started last year, and they're culture meetings. So it's a mandatory meeting.
Oh, I love that.
Everyone has to attend them, and it's all about who do we want to be, what's our goal. And for us, we want to be the best place. Anyone who walks through those doors, we want them to say, this is the best place I've ever worked.
Brother, can
That's the
I
goal.
come? Can I come
Yeah,
to a
come
meeting?
on. You absolutely can.
Are you kidding me?
No, absolutely. I would love for that. And so with that, in these culture meetings, we do like I don't know if you've ever done stop, start, continue. So like literally get in small groups. We have paper at each of the tables and listen, whole team, right? So every level of the organization, you write down like, what are some things that you feel individually? What are some things you feel like we need to stop doing today?
Yeah.
What are some things we need to start doing today? What are some things we need to continue? And then I have them work out in groups. Okay, I need y'all to agree on the top 5 things we need to stop doing. The top 5 things start and continue. And then how? And so then we take all of those things and it's data, right? And so we take that data and we synthesize it to say, okay, here are the themes that I'm seeing. And when I looked at those themes, it was so interesting. For our first culture meeting, the number one issue we had that people felt that we needed to address, it had to do with the operation, which is funny because that's not at all about you. It's about serving guests.
The people.
Yeah. So they're like, we feel like we could be faster if we worked better together on X or Y. And then after that, it had to do with like relationships and communication. But that helped me see better the heart of my team. And we also do some fun activities like where it's like step to this side of the room if you prefer the beach versus the mountains. But in that exercise, we also say like step to this side of the room if you feel like it's harder to apologize. Step to the other side of the room if it's harder to accept an apology.
I love this.
Right? And so it's like you pay attention. When those are happening,
100%.
we're writing down who's over here, who's over there. The majority, 75% of the team feels this way. And so you learn so much about each other.
Yeah.
And then we're measuring. We're constantly, I'm big on data, right? I'm business minded, analytical. And so with that, we're also measuring. And we just ask 2 questions every 6 months. And those 2 questions are, would you recommend us as a place to work for family or friends? And the second question is, how would you describe this as a place to work, right? They could do a sentence, they could do a word, whatever. And we take all that and that's data. And that's how we measure. our progress and if we feel like we're moving in the right direction, right? Because we always want the percentage of folks who say they would recommend us to be increasing,
Absolutely.
right? I'd love to be at 100%. Never going to be at 100%,
sure.
right? Because somebody somewhere is on a performance
sure.
improvement plan and not feeling too
PIP.
good about things, right?
Get this
And so,
PIP
for me,
before we get rid of you.
I feel like I saw my business performance improve significantly with the change and the shift to thinking about culture as an opportunity to collect data and implement change using that information.
That's amazing. Are you pretty strategic with like culture carriers? Like, are you
Tell me about this. I've never heard that word. What's a culture carrier?
It's like identifying people who carry the culture most and like pouring more into them strategically.
No,
Giving
but
them
I
a little
love
bit
that
more
idea.
energy because it creates a domino effect culturally.
No, I've never thought of that, but I am going to now. I
Oh,
love
take
that
it.
idea.
Take
Yeah.
it.
More so, I would say I'm very leadership focused. And so I think by default, I think of them as culture carriers, but that doesn't mean it's necessarily true. I'm sure I have
Yes.
team members who are absolutely culture carriers. So
But they
yeah.
may not be in the position of leadership
Yes.
as
Yes.
present as someone else.
I love that. But what we do have is a culture council. And so right now our restaurant is closed. And so part of reopening is identifying, for like our marketing team and our culture council, okay, who's passionate about that, right? And those are the folks who are going to decide like, okay, what should we do for team member appreciation? Maybe it shouldn't be pizza, it should be donuts, or it should be, all sorts of things.
Yeah.
But figuring out like what folks want, what makes them feel cared for.
That's fire. You're really into the details.
I find you have to be, because I feel like as soon as you take your eye off that ball, right, the house comes crumbling down.
But you have other people who have the capacity to be able to solve problems too, though, right?
Yes, and
So you
so
can go on vacation for 2 weeks.
oh, absolutely, and I think it's extremely important to do that, right? That's
sure.
part of what I love about being an entrepreneur is the autonomy and the ability to unplug. But for me, I use the details as a proxy, right? So I don't check everything every day, but I might check, like, for me, it means something if I check the trash cans this week, right? And I see that they're dirty. Now I'm wondering, are we following any of our checklist
For sure.
systems, right? And so I use those details to help me understand and assess, like, where my leaders are.
That's sample sizing right there.
Exactly. That's exactly it.
Yeah, that's powerful. What are some things that you would say? I'm intrigued. This is for me. This is for me, straight up. What are some things that you would say are happening behind the scenes that most people don't know happens at CFA?
Ooh, that's a great question. Let me think about this.
Because it's such a phenomenal brand,
Right,
in my
right.
opinion. I spend at least.
Yes.
They have seen a lot of my hard-earned American dollars. Let's just put it that way.
I think people.
I get emails almost every day.
There we go. I mean, yeah, a lot goes into it. I would say, I don't think people realize how much effort goes into ensuring they're satisfied. Right? And so we want to always over deliver. And that means something different in different communities. And so it requires a lot of work to figure that out.
I didn't think about it that way.
Right. And so the whole idea of satisfaction, and this is something that I've been interested in for a long time at American Airlines. I was over a team that focused on customer experience strategy, and we were measuring satisfaction and monitoring that constantly. And so we're constantly thinking about that, and it changes differently depending on the type of community you're
That
in.
had to be complex in the airline industry.
It is. It's looking
You're
at
getting so
Right?
That had to be.
Yeah.
It's one thing if you didn't put enough ice in my drink. Airlines, someone is mad, someone is upset, someone is nervous, someone first time on a plane. Like that's gotta be.
Exactly. And the challenge is, right, when we use that example, right, like what it takes to make someone satisfied when it's their first time on the plane is very different than
Very
someone who's a
different.
frequent flyer. And so with Chick-fil-A, we have this amazing brand that has a reputation for exceptional hospitality. And so you have to keep trying to outdo yourself, right, in a genuine, authentic way. And you have to hire people who really enjoy
Embody
delighting
that.
others. Yes,
sure.
and it's extremely difficult because we all have bad days, but you have to hire people when they have a bad day, it's going to be better than your average
Yeah.
person. And so I don't think people realize like that is extremely difficult and everybody is truly committed to it. And as soon as you stop being committed to it, then, right, this isn't the place for you anymore. But I don't think people understand how serious it is when we mess up an order. Gutted. When you're like, oh, I forgot the salad dressing. And you like, the joke is, right, you see that person running, but we genuinely care because we have this overarching culture of excellence. And so it's personal when we don't delight you or when we disappoint you. It means a lot to us because the company was built on this genuine love for food, this genuine love for serving others.
Yeah.
And so I think people don't realize, like, we are really analyzing ourselves constantly to figure out, like, how can we make sure that we continue to hit the mark? And in order to hit the mark, you have to keep outdoing yourself.
Dang. Is that ever, like, more challenging at certain seasons than others?
Yes, I think so.
Because that's such a high...
It is a high bar.
And I'd imagine that it's not even a high bar because it's your normal. Just like we were talking about earlier. Like, outside looking in, I'm like, Sid... You like that's a high bar, but for you, like, no, this is just the bar. Like, what does Mike Tomlin say for the Pittsburgh Steelers? The standard is the standard. So it's your standard, but it's so much higher than maybe someone else's standard.
Right.
But it ain't like you can get your team together and say, hey, this is a high bar and it's really, really hard. No, you're just saying, here's what we do.
Yes.
This is our normal. So how do you keep that going in challenging seasons? I'm curious.
Yes. I think this is just a challenge of being in the restaurant industry and being in
Yes,
hospitality.
100%.
Constantly, what do they say? One of my favorite quotes, leaders are repeaters.
Yep.
So we have the same conversations over and over again a lot. And fun. You have to have fun, right? Because fun is what fuels the fire when things get challenging. And so I think that something that I didn't know and that I had never worked with the public to this extent and seeing the volume and the hundreds of people that you're going to see in a given day when you're working in a restaurant, sometimes you have horrible experiences and you have to snap back. And that's the greatest challenge. So for that, I think that's where it comes to team, allowing people to go take a cry in the back if you need to, hyping people up when you know they need it.
Yeah.
Building genuine relationships. Because, I mean, I grew up hearing, like, you don't have to like who you work with. You just have to respect them. But you know what? I've found we can be so much more effective if we genuinely like each other. So there have been people where I've been like, man, they would kill it. They could do an excellent job, but I don't think they would be right for our culture.
Ah.
And that matters because that whole liking each other
That matters
piece,
to me too.
Yes, it actually goes a long way.
It goes a huge long. Yeah. I can teach you how to do a thing, but I can't teach you the character.
Right.
And that's a whole thing in and of itself. But this ain't about me. This is about you. My number one question for you, and then we'll semi-land the plane.
Okay.
How do you work with complicated people?
That's a great one.
Not even calling them bad people. How do you just work with complicated help?
Yeah.
Let's speak to the millennial leaders out there.
Yes.
Who are mid-30s. They're trying to keep it together, got young kids. They're thriving in their career. But the higher they go, the more it's like, everybody's just normal in here. This is like a high school reunion in here. And like everyone has a big title.
Right.
How do you work with complicated people, Sid?
Oh, wow.
Talk to us.
Yes, I think it depends on the specific challenges that you're facing. And I think that's why it's really important to make sure you are working with or for an organization where you have similar values, right?
Let's assume we don't.
Ooh.
And you can't tell them quit. Hey,
That was it.
and we're not, hey, listen, we're not doing no cop-outs. We're not telling you quit, get a new job, get on LinkedIn ASAP today. Send your resume, update it. We know all those things. But how do you...
If you don't have the same values and you're in a situation where you can't quit, I think you have to decide what your non-negotiables are. And sometimes you just have to let people be wrong, right? And you have to decide, okay, this is what's within my control. Right? You have to decide what's within your control. Focus on what's within your control.
Yeah.
And I think, especially for people who are achievers and who care a lot, folks who are helpers and service-oriented, it can be really difficult to just do your job. That actually can feel dishonest, right? Because you know you're capable of more and you're used to excelling and over-delivering.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes you might find yourself in an environment where the safest thing to do is actually to focus on doing your job, documenting.
Documenting, that's good.
Exactly. Even if you're sending yourself an email to recap something that happened that you feel doesn't align with your values or maybe is something that doesn't build culture and is harmful to the team. And that's how you can protect yourself. I used to have my job description on the wall. And I would revisit it and be like, have I done this? Have I done that? And I would track it. And I had a tracker that I made for myself and one of my leaders that I had, as in I reported to them. And so every week we would ask, hey, can we have a one-on-one every week? We'd have a one-on-one every week. We'd check in and I'd say, this is what I'm working on. This is the status of it. They had a link and we would revisit it every week. Essentially, it's managing yourself. And that
transparency.
That's your job security.
They call it managing your manager.
Yeah, managing up.
That's the language for that.
And I try to teach people even that now when they want to know how to get promoted. Managing up goes a long way. People will love you for it. And so I feel like focus on your job, focus on the things that are within your control, and document, right? So if someone is telling you, you're saying, hey, I need more resources, and they're telling you you can't have those resources, okay, document it, right? And document it so that if you don't achieve the result that you need, it's on record.
Absolutely. Golly, you good at this. You ever thought about consulting?
That would be cool.
In fact, what's next for you? I'm going into consulting now.
Yeah, what's next? So, that's awesome. I definitely want to talk about that. I definitely would love to hear what you're... Okay.
This ain't about me.
Okay.
Come back, part two.
Okay,
Come back for part two.
What's next? Currently my restaurant is closed. We hope to reopen at the end of July. And so the most important goal for me is opening my big, beautiful new restaurant in Copperfield in the Houston area, in Northwest Houston. And endearing myself again to my team and to my community. We have so many events. I'm excited. An event every week for the rest of the year. We've already planned that. We're already planning 2026. And just really looking to understand, like, what do you need from us? We want to care for people beyond, the food, right? The food is a beautiful thing that brings people together. And we want to make sure when you come together and you have that meal, whether it's in our restaurant or outside, it's time well spent. Right? And it enriches your life. So continuing to do that, growing our leaders, growing our people, and growing our restaurant. Because simply put, we say, like, sell more chicken, do more good. And so we just gonna keep at it, right? There's so much more we can do. There's so much growth to be had within our community and our team. So that's the most important thing. And that's what I'm focused on for the rest of this year.
I gotta come. I gotta pull up.
Please.
I wanna see what this is like. At the time when y'all actually moved from the Galleria to that area, and we went for the whatever it was.
Yes.
First thing I told Kev, like, can I see the back? Like, can I see how the actual operation go? And like, how do you function? I was about
it's
that.
Amazing.
I wanted to know all of that.
Yes.
Like, I'm great. Thanks for inviting me. So I got to pull up. How often are those meetings? Is it like
the culture meetings twice a year?
And it's
at a minimum.
Every staff member?
Every staff member. That's a requirement to be there.
Is it off-site or is it?
It's in our restaurant. So since we're closed on Sundays, that gives us a really great opportunity where from time to time we'll use Sundays for development.
No.
Yeah, and it's great because we have a playground, right? So you could say, hey, if you need to bring your kids, we know it's a Sunday. We try to make it after church for those people who decide to go to church. And have your kids play in the playground. We'll have food. We'll, enjoy time together and make things happen.
On the personal side of things. I wasn't going to ask you this, but I'm having such a good time. How do you balance like motherhood, being a wife, like just life?
Yes.
Kids' homework.
Yes.
Pick up, drop off. Got to be here. She got invited to another party
right.
again.
Right.
How do you balance all of that?
I'd say having an excellent partner and community. And so I think most people say the most important decision you're going to make, right, is your spouse. And it's absolutely that. We are aligned with our values. My mom talked to us constantly about our future husbands. And so I already was picking out and thinking of his profile long before I was, in a position to really consider.
And God answered that profile with my friend.
Exactly. And I met him actually before I even started college at orientation.
What?
Yeah, I met him at orientation.
Shut up.
Yeah.
How did y'all meet?
A cookout. We went to a cookout at his house. He had several roommates, and that's how we met.
Pause. What were you? Hold on. No, we'll tell that offline.
Okay.
We're not gonna do that. I'm not doing you like that. No.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
But, anyways, back to what was I even asking you? That just threw me off.
How do you balance?
Partner. You were talking about having a great partner is really a key part of being successful and balancing it out.
Exactly. And so there's nothing that my partner won't do. Whether I have 2 daughters, he will do their hair. He will pick out their outfits, make sure their faces are Vaselined up sufficiently, right? Like there's nothing that he won't do. He takes being a father and a husband extremely seriously. My happiness is a priority for him. And so I think that's what's allowed me to make the moves that I've moved. He sacrificed his aspirations to do Chick-fil-A with me, to ensure that I was able to set up a strong foundation before he pursued other opportunities. And so absolutely, I'd say number one, it's my husband. And then I say number two, it's the community. So there are times where, I can't take her to a birthday party. So I'll call another mom and say, hey, can I drop her off at your house? And can she go with you all? And so again, we take education very seriously. And so we were very intentional about the schools we selected for our children, because we wanted not only for them to get the absolutely best education accessible, because we want our daughters to be strong thinkers that can stand on their own. We also wanted them to be around folks with similar values to ours. And so because of that, I've been able to develop really great relationships with other parents. And then, of course, you have your family. And we have a family that's extremely engaged, right? Whether it's my sister or my mother and father-in-law, or my parents will drive down from Dallas, so really
Mr.
leveraging
Robert.
our siblings, our cousins. We have a family where it's literally like, what do you need? I show up.
Yeah.
And so for me, making sure we just create that community and we're not afraid to ask for help. And there are times where I've just been so tired, I got to pick up the phone and be like, Mom, can you come? Like, I feel like I need an IV. I'm just so
amazing.
exhausted, right? And so transparency goes a long way.
That's amazing. 5 questions that are extremely random. Overrated or underrated? Getting 8 hours of sleep every night.
Underrated.
Really?
Yes.
Why?
I need 9 or 10 hours of sleep. I love sleep. I think,
How?
and so much research shows that it's tied to like early onset dementia.
Oh, 100%.
So many things. So I feel like we need to talk more about sleep. We talk about things like processed foods and artificial sugar, which is super important. But I think sleep may be more important.
I agree with you. Overrated or underrated? Performance reviews.
That's a tricky one.
Come on, leader.
I'm going to go with underrated.
Okay.
I'm going to go with underrated. But I think it's all about how you do it, right? And how you utilize it. Like, how often do you do it? And are you actually holding people accountable? Yeah.
Most companies, people are shocked by what they see.
Exactly. There
You
should be no
shouldn't be.
surprises.
You
Yeah, there
should
should be
not
no
be.
surprises in performance
You
review.
shouldn't be hearing something like, I've never.
Right. You
What?
should not hear
Where
something
is
for the
this
first
coming
time.
from?
I agree.
It should be in a line. All right, next one. I only got 3 more. A 2 weeks notice. Overrated or underrated?
Underrated. I am passionate about 2-week notices.
What?
Literally, when I hire folks, I tell them the only thing I ask of you is that when the time comes where you feel you need to leave, I just ask that you would give us the courtesy of a 2-week notice.
Courtesy.
I feel really passionate about that. And so when our restaurant closed, I told my team 4 to 6 weeks in advance that we were going to be closing for 6 months for a remodel. Again, modeling that behavior. It's scary, right? Because my whole team could have just quit then.
Yeah.
They could have immediately started looking for jobs. But I'm really blessed, and I believe that because I modeled the behavior that I ask of them, I only had one person quit before our last day, which is huge.
That's ginormous.
Right, because that means they trusted that I was going to really run through the finish line with them. And also they trusted when I told them, I'm going to make sure anybody who wants another job, I'm going to make sure you get another job. And I did. And everybody who wanted a job had a job while we were closed. So yes, I feel passionate. I think it's just it's a respect thing. I feel like I'm going to do anything I can to help you and your family. All I ask in return is just let me know 2 weeks in advance that you're leaving. I think that's a really low bar. It doesn't happen all the time, but I do take it personally. My feelings are hurt when somebody doesn't give 2-week notice, unless it's like, oh, I have to move last minute. Totally fine. I'm not offended by that. But I am offended when you're like gonna work 5 minutes away somewhere else and you didn't trust us. And so then I look at myself and I say, what did I do or what did we do that made them feel like they couldn't trust us with that information? Where they felt like maybe, because usually people don't tell because they're afraid their hours are going to be cut. They're afraid there will be some kind of negative consequence. So then I got to do an investigation and figure out like what's going on.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Is there a reason that's driving that? A valid reason?
Underrated or overrated? Appetizers before the main entree.
Oh, that's a tricky one. I'm going to say overrated. It's fun. But growing up, we never got appetizers. That was like a rich people thing. And you're not getting nothing but water. Like you're gonna get no appetizers.
Yeah.
It's wasteful. It's like if you need a snack, eat before we leave and then enjoy your meal.
Okay. Last one. Underrated or overrated? Health insurance premiums.
Oh. I mean, I don't know. This definitely doesn't give me warm and fuzzies. So I know it's excessive. I mean, I think that's a system that's definitely has a lot of opportunity. I don't know much about it, but I'm gonna say overrated. I mean, I'm definitely a fan of free healthcare. I'm on that bandwagon.
Shout out
Can
Canada.
we just right? Like, I definitely feel like that should be a basic rate.
Overrated, underrated?
So overrated.
Okay. That's a wrap. I'm done.
All right.
Cut.
That was easy.
Wow.
What were you gonna say that you said you're not gonna say?
What were